here it goes. I'm Eva, and my cousin just got me this really cool stand so I could record my cooking show, whatever. Anyway, everybody loves to watch my Instagram. Everybody's been reaching out to me. You guys have been so awesome. You kind of inspire me to keep going. And today we're in my kitchen in Boston Lake. We have lots of snow outside. It's a white Christmas. And it's a special time of the year because tomorrow is Christmas Eve. And I'm Polish, so we celebrate Wigilia. And Wigilia, one of the main dishes is pierogi. So everybody always asks me, hey Eva, how do you make your pierogi? Last year, I believe I've made over 500 of them and they disappeared within an hour. We had a party and my cousin has asked me to show him how I make it because of COVID and the quarantine. This year we're not having a party, unfortunately. So I decided to make a video and show you guys how I make the best vegan dough. Vegan, yes, vegan. It's not gluten-free, unfortunately. I don't know an option of doing gluten-free, but this is only once a year. I really don't typically do flour or wheat or anything like that, but it's just once a year. If I have 6 pierogi out of everything that I make, that's a lot. So first off, I want to make sure you guys know there are different types of flour. This type of flour is very important to use. There are different types of grades, and this is a 500 grade, as you see here. And you could pick this up at the Polish store. And the difference between this flour and an all-purpose flour is the fineness. So I found with American flours like a Pillsbury Doughboy or Gold or whatever, the dough becomes lumpy and really like sticky. So I decided to go to the Polish store and pick up a really good one. If you don't have a Polish store near you, maybe you could find a culinary store or order it online. Okay, so we love Amazon. You could practically buy anything on there. So we're going to start off with, this is 500 grams, and we're going to make enough dough to make about 50 pierogi. You say 50, that's a lot. It's not. If everybody takes, like my husband, he eats 10 of them at one plate, and he has 3 plates, so he eats 30. It's really not that a lot. So what I do is I go about half a bag, and I have my stand mixer ready here. You can do it also by hand. I prefer the stand mixer because I just got kind of used to it. So we go ahead, we put in half the bag, which is about 250 grams. I'm not really that precise. I'm more an intuitive cook. If you want to get technical and do it that way, you can, but just for the technicality of it, that's what we're doing. Next thing is I use olive oil. The reason why I use olive oil is because it gives it a nice stretch and it doesn't become too goopy. Some people ask me, well, Eva, why don't you use eggs? I don't like to use eggs. The dough becomes thicker, it becomes rubbery. Well, let's just leave it at that much. And I like to add a little bit, just about a 1/4 cup. I do it by eye. If you want to be technical, here I'll take out a measuring cup just for you guys because everybody needs to be technical and we need to follow some type of a recipe. So we do about a 1/4 cup, there we go, of olive oil. And make sure it goes in there. Let's not forget a pinch of salt. The reason why we need a pinch of salt is because you want it to have flavor. I like to use baleen sea salt, just a little bit. Boop, boop, boop. Perfect. And then I use lukewarm water. So I absolutely love boiling the water beforehand because then it becomes like really nice and distilled. So it gets all of the impurities out of the water. If you want to just use hot faucet water, you can. So I went ahead and I locked in my KitchenAid, and I'm gonna start pouring in the water. Turn it on. It's gonna keep working with that oil. And we just slowly add the water. And when I say slowly, I mean it. Do not pour it in there. Let it work. I have the dough hook on. If you put too much water, you're gonna need to add flour, excuse me. If you add flour, that means you're gonna have more dough. And what you wanna do is, you just wanna make a batch. You don't want to make too much dough and be stuck with it, because once you refrigerate it, it's not the same. And once it cools off too much, I feel the velocity and the stretch of the dough, it loses its luster and it becomes harder to actually roll out the perfect thin dough. So here we go, adding a little bit more, little by little. Let me get you guys off of the stand, and I'm gonna flip you around, and here we go. It's clipped in, and slowly add a little bit more. I had just about 400 millimeters in my stand here. You do not want to make it too fast. You see how slowly I'm adding it in. You don't want to add too much all at once. It just becomes a mess, and then you're gonna have a slushy mess in the bowl. So wait and see. Grab a spatula and just get the sides. Make sure, get it in there really nice and good. See how it's starting to stick together? And pour out the rest of this oil in this cup. Alright guys, I kept adding water, and here we go. Now the dough is getting nicely beat up by the mixer. I just have my hand on top of it over here just to make sure to hold it down, because it is beating it up pretty tough. If you're doing this by hand, it's going to get a little tricky. So I'm going to just stop the mixer for a moment. I'm going to show you guys something. So it's nice and warm, and I'm going to just make sure I do this with my hand. Voila. We're gonna lock it in. We're gonna do it a little bit more. And it's gonna beat it up a little bit more. That way it's gonna work the flour with the water and the oil and make it nice and smooth. If it's not sticking, try adding just a skosh of oil. That's what we're gonna do. My hands are so floury. I'm just gonna add a little bit more. Just a little bit, just about a teaspoon. The reason why is because the dough is going to become nice and round.
Look at this guy beating this thing up. Imagine this being your hands. There we go. Look at that. Most people ask, hey Eva, how do you know your dough is perfect and when it's ready to be rolled out? How do you know? When the stand mixer leaves nothing on the bottom, like so, that's when you know your dough is perfect. When nothing is sticking to your stand mixer or to your hands, that's when you know it's time to check on it. So we're gonna turn it off again, unlock, lift. Whew, look how perfect. It's sticky. All right, guys, stay tuned.
All right, for this I need a cup of coffee, so can I just say how much I love coffee? I suffer from low blood pressure and it makes me so happy to have caffeine. I want to show you guys this wonderful frock that I got in Poland. It's a little Krakowianka in Cracovia, because this is a Polish capital, well, Kraków and Warsaw. They're two different capitals, but this one is specifically of Krakowianka. There's also Warszawianka, there's different types. So I come from an area of Poland called Łomża, and our family goes back, oh my God, I think to like 13th century. So it's pretty cool that I have such strong roots and I speak fluently Polish. Ja rozmawiam po polsku. I was raised here in the United States, and as a Polish American, I have to say that it's become really important to celebrate the traditions of our ancestry. So I grew up in New York City, which was a huge Polish community. I personally came from Bensonhurst, which was really Italian, but being Polish, I always met people from either Slavic background, Russian, Ukrainian, Lithuanian, Belarusian, Slovakian, Czech, and we all kind of got together and did our thing. But now that I'm living in upstate New York, almost North Country, and so in a place called Boston Lake. So me and my husband, we moved into this house, and I was automatically so happy to move up here because A, there's a huge Polish community here, but at the same time, a lot of people are from the Polish descent. So a lot of our neighbors actually ask me to make them pierogi. So despite us having COVID and everything, I'm going to be gifting a lot of pierogi this year to my neighbors. It makes me really happy to cook for others, less carbs for me. But I'm gonna take a sip of this coffee and we're gonna get started. Here we go. So remember, we made that dough just about 3 minutes ago. Here it is, it's still nice and warm. So I'm gonna take about half of this, okay? And I'm going to lay it out. Now it's important, remember all that flour that I saved? I'll take that flour, look at my pretty towels from Poland. They have all types of mushrooms, muchomorki, borówki. Yes, oh my God, that'll be another video. Lots and lots of mushrooms. So, today we're focusing on making the perfect pierogi dough. So, I'm going to just add this on. I use a rubber mat, a silicone mat, not rubber, excuse me. I absolutely love it because it allows me to not have to scrape down my granite countertops. Granite is a little bit cold, so it makes it a little bit harder to get it off. And I love the kitchen stand because it comes with this awesome top, and I'm able just to put my sifter on top of that. So here we go. This is my first batch, and I'm going to just press on it. I'm going to press on it. And then this is my type of favorite roller. This one specifically is from Nordic Wear. I got this in California when I was living there. But if you visit any of your culinary stores, you could pick one out that is your favorite. I personally like this one because I'm able to roll it with my hands easily. So I'm just going to move these little mats out of the way. And as you see, let me lower this camera down for you. Trying not to get flour on everything. All right, we push. We push. Push. You're gonna roll this for a little while, so stay tuned with me. You want to make sure that it's pretty thin. You don't want it to be thick. The thick pierogi, you know, they become, oh, there go my dogs. Hey, Huxley. They're so funny. I have 2 Shih Tzus. My little food dogs. They're my little companions. So, here we go. Huxley's going at it. So I got Huxley about 7 years ago in California. I was kind of lonely and living out in the West Coast. That was quite an interesting time of my life. I found a huge Polish community there, and we would go to the festivals in Yorba Linda, in LA, and it was really nice to see how many Polish people were all over the world, especially in California. And I really enjoyed going to like Dożynki and meeting a lot of my friends that I'm still friends with. They come to New York, they come to visit me. They were all very sad for me to move back to New York, but it all comes with reason. And here we go. Look how nice and thin this is becoming. So I just run my hand over it to see where it's still thick. And I spread it out a little bit more. Run your hand, you're gonna feel it. If you don't feel it, well then, you just keep rolling. Like I said, I'm a very intuitive cook. My mom was a culinary chef in Poland, and she taught me how to make this. She passed away when I was 10, but the tradition and the love of every single pierogi that I make, it comes from the heart, and it's for her. So now I take a round glass. It's just about a regular drinking glass. I love this one because it's heavy bottom. And here we go. I'm gonna make circles. Make sure to press pretty well. Keep close to the edges. I love this. Whew. How perfect is that? Let's see if maybe we can squeeze one more in. It's gonna be a tight one, but we got it. All right, so now what we do is we peel back all the extra dough. We don't want it to dry out because then we re-roll it and we make more pierogi with it. You don't want to be wasteful, right? Well, that's one of the things that we were taught as kids, is not to be wasteful, because, especially with food, it was one of our Polish traditions in Poland, I remember, if we had to throw out food, we would have to give it a kiss and throw it to the animals. So I threw it into my little KitchenAid stand, so it doesn't dry out. So now, what I do is I take one of my little pretty linnets and I cover these guys up. Why do I cover them up? I don't want them to dry out. So one important thing I forgot to do is to take a little glass, which is separate. Just have a little bit of water for my fingertips. Okay, so I didn't show how to make the filling, but this is basically boiled potato and rotisserie sauteed onion with salt, pepper, and a little bit of chives and parsley. And this filling is called Ruski pierogi. So these are known as Russian pierogi. You could make all types of fillings. This specific one is my husband's favorite, other than the meat one. But because Vigilia is a vegetarian day, we do not eat meat, I do make sure that him and my in-laws do enjoy pierogi. So I take a spoon, and now I take my first little dough, and I go ahead and I just press on it gently, not too hard. I want to make sure. And I always say, put it in the palm of your hand. And then you take a pretty full spoon. I use a teaspoon. If you want to add more, then you're going to have to make bigger round circles. And then what you do is you squeeze them. And the way you squeeze them to make them pretty is by pinching them pretty hard. You want to make sure you pinch these guys. See, it's coming undone. And it becomes a pretty pierogi. And then what I do is, again, I take a little bit, I have a pan and I line it with parchment paper. And I take a little bit of flour, I put it on there, I squeeze the pierogi, and I cover it. The reason why I cover it is because I do not want them to dry out. Now, here's an important thing in regards to pierogi. Some people like to boil them first and then freeze them. I prefer not to freeze them with boiling them. Just as I make them, I make a whole entire tray, I put them inside the freezer, freeze them, and then I bag them with a little bit of flour. And then when I'm ready to cook them, I take them out and I boil water, but I make sure it's not scorching hot. You want to kind of steam them. And then what I usually do is I pan fry them with a little bit of sauteed onion. Well, let me know if you guys like making your pierogi. I could make one more just to show you the technique yet again, how to make the dough. Some people use forks. I personally do not like to use the fork because it could poke the dough and then it could actually fall out. So I don't like to do that. So here we go. Got a spoon of the filling. Add it in. Make it into a little ball. And then what we do is we start at the outer edge and we pinch. If it's not sticking, remember I told you to keep a glass of water. Here's your glass of water. Just wet it just a little bit. The dough, that's why I keep the dough covered. Here we go. Here's our perfect little pierogi. Make sure that the ends are well put together. You do not want them to fall apart when you're boiling them. And here you go, another cutie. He's gonna be delicious. Well guys, let's make some pierogi. I wanna wish everybody Wesołych Świąt, Bożego Narodzenia. And I hope you guys stay tuned with me and enjoy my cooking. And I wish you could taste it. So I look forward and do widzenia.